Okay, great. I'm Lauren Hamlet. I'm the director of the Wildlife Center at Pasadena Humane. And so I know coyotes are a hot topic everywhere, and we are your animal care provider contracted with the city. So happy to present and talk about wildlife in general and coyotes specifically. So yeah, we can go on to the next slide. I don't know who's my advancer. Okay. So yeah, basically, if the people watching are not familiar, Pasadena Humane's role with the city, we are a private 501c3 nonprofit. We are contracted animal control for 11 cities, including La Cañada, Flint Ridge. We do respond to reports of sick, injured, and orphaned wildlife. We have federal and state permits that allow us to triage and rehab and release wildlife. And we do a lot of public education presentations like this with the cities, also for other community groups. Happy to do those. We're going to be presenting a longer form of this presentation next week at the public safety meeting. And one of my colleagues is going to be presenting that. And we have our wildlife helpline, so the number's there. I also left some magnets in the back. If you haven't grabbed one, grab one. Put it on your fridge. And so that's our wildlife helpline, and it is kind of our main way that we get information from the public about concerns about wildlife. If you find injured, sick, or orphaned wildlife, text us. It's primarily text message based, so send us a photo, and we can help you out. That is usually we have someone on the phones from 9:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. And then we also offer a wildlife exclusion service, which is kind of new. We started doing that a little over a year ago. So that is a for-fee service that we could come out, and it's kind of an alternative to pest control, like conventional pest control. So we can do like humane exclusion on your house. If you have a skunk under your house or a raccoon or something, we can set up some cameras and kind of humanely evict the animal from the home. So next slide. So many people wonder, what does it mean, urban wildlife? But it's things like these little possums, and I don't know, what have you guys seen in around your neighborhoods? Possums, squirrels, maybe, raccoons, and coyotes, of course. Do you guys see the parrots up here much? Yeah? Okay. What about peacocks? Sometimes, maybe? So these are all urban wildlife. You know, they've really learned to thrive in our urban environment around humans. They have adapted really well to living in our neighborhoods. They are born and raised here. The neighborhoods are their habitat. And so the wildlife is technically under the jurisdiction of California Department of Fish and Wildlife. So we are kind of acting under their direction when it comes to wildlife response. So next slide. So coyotes was mentioned, obviously. That's what I'm mainly here to talk about. This is just a good example of kind of the size of coyotes. A lot of people have a misunderstanding of how big a coyote actually is. We get calls sometimes, people saying, I saw an 80-pound coyote in my backyard. And now we've heard about the wolf that has come to California now that we're all quite excited about. Well, some of us are quite excited about. But coyotes typically in our area only get around 35 pounds. They look a lot bigger because they're fluffy, but they're actually quite lean and quite small. So next slide. And coyotes have been around for 1 million years. They emerged as a distinctive species a long, long time ago. And unlike a lot of the other predators from California that have been extirpated, they have learned to live and thrive despite colonizing efforts to shut them out and to extirpate them as well. So next slide. So I want to talk a little bit about how their strategies for resiliency, and one of those things is their diet. So they are generalists, and they've adapted to eat all kinds of things, fruits and vegetables, as well as meat. And they really thrive in most major cities in North America because of this human shield effect. So being close to humans shields them from other larger predatory species like mountain lions that want to stay away from humans, and bears that typically want to stay away from humans. I know sometimes our bears like to be close to humans, but they really love mice, rats, urban fowl, and pets. One study showed that pets are really only 1% to 2% of the average coyote's diet, and even then, it's hard to tell if those were scavenged or predated. So next slide. This is just another visualization of the different diets of coyotes. There's a great book called Coyote America that talks sort of about, it's like a biography of coyotes in North America, and it says that coyotes' primary prey happens to be our close fellow travelers, the mice and the rats that flourish around us in profusion. Next slide. And their life cycle typically is January to March, which is right now, is mating. And so this is when we hear the most vocalizations. And I think if you click forward on the next slide, there's a little video that has some vocalizing. Does that sound familiar to everyone? Yeah. So this is one coyote making all of these noises. So it's pretty impressive. They can sort of throw their voice, and this is a video from the Phoenix Zoo. They can throw their voice so that it sounds like there's a bunch of different coyotes in the area. And I think they're one of the most complex languages of terrestrial mammals in North America. So the yips and the howls and the barks, they all mean sort of different things. Most of the time, they're doing kind of a roll call to see where their family is, who's where, reestablishing their territories. So when you hear them outside, they're not always announcing that they had a great kill. I know I get a lot of calls from people saying they have this crazy, they're out hunting and they're making all this noise. But most of the time they're not advertising that they've had a great kill or anything like that. They're just kind of doing roll call. And so, again, right now is mating season, so we're hearing a lot of vocalization. And then there's about a 2-month gestation, and then March through May is when the pups are born. And that is when we're usually seeing the most reactivity towards dogs. So it's really important that we prepare for that. And so next slide. Because of all these urban adaptations, they have gotten very comfortable in our neighborhoods, and a lot of it's because of the subsidies that we maybe intentionally or unintentionally are providing. So bird feeders are a big one, not only because bird feeders often attract rats and rodents, which is one of their favorite food sources, but also you can see in one of those pictures they'll actually drink nectar out of the hummingbird feeders, or they'll eat the seeds. So just keeping in mind that when you're trying to feed the birds, you're going to be feeding usually a lot more than the birds. So next slide. It's all about the resources, making sure that you are aware of your home and the resources that you are providing to all the wildlife in the area. A lot of fallen fruit is a big attractant. I know there's community groups that'll come pick all the fruit off your trees for you and donate it to like local food banks, things like that. But a big one is leaving out cat food for the community cats. So we really, really encourage people to do that on sort of a very strict timeline. So they're only feeding the cats at one time a day. They're not leaving the food out. They're supervising when that food is out, and then they're hosing down the area once that 20 or 30 minutes or whatever has completed. So we can help with that. We have community cat resources as well. So if you have questions about that, you can reach out to our domestic team as well. Next slide. And yeah, please don't feed wildlife intentionally or unintentionally, but definitely not intentionally. Feeding wildlife, any wildlife, can increase the risk of bites and aggressive behaviors. So even if you think you're doing them a favor, it's actually going to turn out to be really bad for them and for whoever is feeding them or whoever happens to come across these conditioned animals. It also could make them really sick and spread disease. They should not be eating human food or trash. It's not good for them. We really want them to have natural behaviors and hunt natural food sources like rats and ground squirrels and things like that. So fed coyotes and fed wildlife can very often lead to dangerous encounters with pets and children too. So to be a true friend to our wildlife and show them respect, we allow them to maintain their natural behaviors, and it's technically considered harassment of wildlife to feed them because it alters those natural behaviors. Next slide. So we have some passive and active hazing tools I want to show you. So passive hazing is things that you don't really have to do actively, things that you can just set up in your yard to make it less friendly or less inviting. So things like motion sensing lights. In the middle there is coyote rollers. You can put those on the top of your fence. It prevents the coyotes from getting a grip on the top and jumping over. They kind of roll backwards. If you have a dog that likes to escape, it also helps keep your dog inside your fence as well. There's a catio up there. So if you have a cat that likes to roam or needs outside time, getting a catio built that's predator proof is going to be really important, or having a dog run. There's also motion sensing sprinklers that the city of Pasadena has actually had some success renting out motion sensing sprinklers to neighbors who have had issues with coyotes, and those have been pretty successful in deterring the coyote even when the humans are not around. And then there's other kind of stinky socks and radio and hedge trimming, just passive hazing techniques. So if you suspect that there's animals hanging out in your yard, you can throw some stinky socks out there. Smell of humans can help to encourage the animal to move along. Having a radio will keep it noisy, so they don't want to be around that area. Those are kind of the main things. Next slide. Active hazing tools. So right now everybody's got their umbrellas. That's a really, really great active hazing tool to bring with you on walks, even when it's not raining, because it makes you look big. You can open and close it. You can spin it. A can full of old pennies or marbles is really loud and effective. You can shake it and it makes lots of noise. Squirting them with the hose, using a flashlight, and then the other thing that's like red and like a stick, we call that a scare stick, and that's just made out of Mylar tape and like a bamboo trowel thing, and you just flick it really loud. It makes a lot of noise and it gives you kind of a distance. It's like an extension of your arm, and that's been really effective in our Pasadena area as well. We've been handing those out to residents. So the best hazing tool is your body, just being confident and loud and making sure the coyote knows that you're not afraid of it, even if you are. But if you need an extra little tool to bring with you to help build your confidence, that's what these are for as well. So next slide. And here's just some tips for hazing. If the coyote is 4 car lengths away or more, there's really not a need to haze it. You can just let it mind its own business. You mind your own business. But if it starts to approach, then you need to really haze the coyote until it leaves the area. Clear delivery of confidence and assertiveness is more important than those props or tools, like I mentioned. Always ensure the coyote has an exit route. Don't haze them into traffic. We don't want to cause any accidents. Again, being mindful of March through summer, of potential dens and pups. And make the hazing multisensory if you can. So something they can hear, something they can see, something that maybe touches them. So like throwing small sticks or rocks or things in their general direction. We don't want to hurt them, but we want them to know that we mean business. Maintaining eye contact, standing your ground, never running away or turning your back. So, and prevention is the best medicine. So please, contact us if you see coyotes more often or start, seeing unusual behavior that you're not used to. We want to stop that before it gets to the point that they're getting really conditioned. Next slide. And then with our dogs, of course, they can be seen as threats to a coyote's territory, to its food supplies, and or to its babies. So next are some tips for walking your dog. Next. Maybe. Next slide. There we go. On leashes, always keep your dog 6 foot or shorter leash. If you click next, I think there's a big X that goes over that retractable leash. Yes, we do not like those. And I think they're actually technically illegal in some cities, or even in LA County maybe. But yeah, those are really not great because you don't have control over how far away your dog is. And coyotes are really, really smart, and they can tell that that's a flimsy leash, and it might make them a little bit more likely to try their luck with you if they see your dog on a leash like that. Next. Okay, hazing will be less effective if you're on a walk with your dog, but you can just click through. I think there's like 3 or 4 things on here. Keep your dog's leash short. If it's not leashed, leash it immediately. Next. Pick up your pet if you see a coyote when possible. If it's a big dog, just keep it real close next to you. Next. Actively haze. Next. And then stay where you are hazing until the coyote leaves the area. And then I think the last one is bringing a buddy. Yes, walk with a buddy if you know there's coyotes in the area, so that one person can haze the coyote while the other takes the pet away from the area, because it is difficult to haze a coyote while you have a dog with you. So next slide. And then at home, make sure you're supervising your pets outdoors if there's known coyotes in the area, securing your perimeter with, as fences that are strong and have coyote rollers on top, utilizing secure catios, dog runs. Don't leave pet food out. Spay and neuter your pets, because especially with dogs, they can smell when they're in heat, and it can attract coyotes, and vice versa. They are closely enough related that will have an impact. Next. And then making sure your dog is up to date on rabies vaccine always, and your cat. Because if your pet is bitten by a coyote or other rabies vector species, there's a mandatory 30-day quarantine if your pet is up to date on its vaccines. If it's not up to date on its vaccines, it's a 180-day quarantine. So no one wants to keep their dog quarantined for that long, I don't think. Next. And then last reminders, if humans are in immediate physical danger, call 911. For questions about coyotes in your neighborhood, you can contact us. If it's not sort of something that you need help with that day necessarily, emailing is really a good way to kind of talk things through, and we can assess your specific situation. And then for more information and resources and a lot of translated information through Project Coyote, which is great if you have neighbors who are not primarily English speakers. They have a lot of languages on Project Coyote that you can use. And then I don't know if La Cañada has a reporting system for coyotes or not, but a lot of cities do. So check with the city and see. Otherwise, you can just text us. And I think that's it. Next slide. Yep, my references. So thank you.